My name is Clara Hensley, and I never thought I'd be writing this. What happened to me still feels unreal, like a dream stitched into my memory. I was a meteorologist trained to study storms, not to meet the Creator in the middle of one. But I crossed over and saw Jesus, and He revealed 5 events coming in October 2025. What I'm about to share is not easy, but I believe you were meant to hear it. Please listen carefully until the end. And before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to Afterlife Info. It was September 27th, just another workday. And yet something inside me whispered, today will not end the way you expect. I brushed it off. I was the woman who trusted patterns, cloud movement, temperature shifts, satellite feeds. My faith was in forecasts, not fate. But that day, every chart I trusted would fail, and everything I believed would be shaken. That morning my daughter asked me, Mom, do you ever get tired of chasing storms? I laughed and kissed her forehead, but deep down, I didn't have an answer. Storms had become my identity, unpredictable, powerful, loud. Just like the ache in my soul I had long ignored. I arrived at the station, half listening to my co-anchor joke about the skies being too clear. But something about the air felt off. The world was normal, but my spirit wasn't. I went through my day like a routine I knew by heart, but my heart wasn't in it. After lunch, I stared at the radar screen longer than usual. No anomalies. No storms. Just silence. The silence felt heavier than thunder. Then the phone rang. A wrong number. A woman's voice whispered, he's closer than you think. Static. Then silence. I froze. No one else had heard it. I shrugged it off, but something clung to me the rest of the afternoon. A presence. A pull. I couldn't explain it. I didn't dare to. By early evening, I felt an urge to drive, not home, but far out into the countryside. I didn't understand why, but I obeyed. The skies darkened, but not with clouds. It was like the light itself was folding in. I stopped the car, stepped outside, and everything changed. The moment I stepped out of the car, it was like the world paused to breathe. There was no wind, no traffic, no birds, just a stillness that wrapped around me like a veil. And then it began. My chest tightened. My knees buckled. A low hum rose from the earth, vibrating through my spine. I fell to the ground, not from fear, but from weight, an unseen gravity pressing on my soul. I remember whispering, Lord, if this is you, don't let me be afraid. Then silence. Not the absence of sound, but a sacred kind of silence that speaks louder than thunder. I looked up. The sky had changed. What had been pale dusk just moments ago was now rippling like water. Waves of soft, glowing light moving across the firmament. And then a tunnel appeared. Not a dark hole, but a corridor of light formed by layers of clouds, stars, and golden mist. I wasn't dreaming. I wasn't dying. I was crossing. The wind returned, not in gusts, but like a breath. Steady. Holy. And then I heard it. My name. Clara. It wasn't spoken aloud, but it echoed inside me like a song I had always known. I turned toward the sound, though I could not see anyone. But I felt him. He was near. The tunnel of skies began to pull me in. Not by force, but by invitation. And I said yes. Yes, Lord. Every step I took felt like shedding a layer of pain I didn't know I was carrying. Regret, guilt, shame, doubt. All of it began to fall away. I saw flashes of my life, moments I'd buried deep. My mother singing hymns while washing dishes, my daughter falling asleep waiting for me to come home. Prayers I once whispered and forgot. But heaven remembered them all. I wasn't being judged. I was being known. Deeper than any science, deeper than data, deeper than weather maps. I was seen as I truly was. And still, I was loved. Then it happened. The tunnel widened. And at the end of it, a presence. Not just light, not just beauty. It was Jesus. He wasn't far. He wasn't distant. He felt familiar. He said nothing at first, but his presence spoke everything. My soul recognized him before my mind could. And then he whispered, "You are safe." I fell to my knees. I wept without shame. For the first time in my life, I felt whole. This wasn't the end. This was the beginning. And I knew everything was about to change. If you've ever felt like something sacred is calling you deeper, you're not alone. Comment amen below to receive his covering. Subscribe to I Lived Because I Believed for more testimonies that stir the soul. Let Jesus find you, right where you are. Jesus looked into me, not at me, not through me, but into me. It was as if every cell in my body stood still to listen. And then he said it. October 2025. The words didn't just echo in the air. They resonated in my bones. I don't know how I knew, but I knew. What I was about to see would mark the beginning. He opened his hand, and suddenly the space between us rippled like water. Light poured out. 5 circles appeared around him, each pulsing with a different color: blue, gold, crimson, emerald, and white. These are not storms of earth, he said gently, but movements that will shape the lives of many. He reached out and touched my forehead, not with a hand of flesh, but with warmth that felt like fire and peace at once. In an instant, I was no longer standing in light. I was hovering above the earth, high, still, silent. Below me was the whole planet. And then I saw it. A flash. Not lightning. Not meteor. Something greater. A rending of the skies. A burst of divine brilliance that rippled from horizon to horizon. People across the globe looked up. Some in awe, others in terror. Some knelt. Some ran. But no one looked away. "What is this, Lord?" I asked, trembling. He answered, "A sign. The first of 5. It will awaken hearts, but also divide them." As I watched, the flash began to shift. It became lines of fire, like ancient symbols being drawn across the sky. My earthly mind tried to interpret: plasma? Aurora? But my soul already knew. This was not science. This was heaven writing. The world held its breath. And then, something unexpected. Churches began to fill. People who hadn't prayed in years dropped to their knees. Families gathered. Enemies embraced. Strangers wept in silence. But not all responded the same. Some mocked. Some turned their faces away. Some tried to explain it away with science or denial. But the air was different. The sky had spoken. And in that moment, humanity remembered. It wasn't destruction. It was invitation. Back in the presence of Jesus, I couldn't stop the tears. Not of fear, but of knowing the world would never be the same. "This is only the beginning," he said softly. And I believed him. The light around us dimmed, but Jesus remained. He didn't speak immediately. His presence was enough, steady, anchoring, like a lighthouse during a storm. Then he looked at me and said, "The earth remembers, even when man forgets." With those words, the vision shifted. Suddenly, I was above the oceans, not calm seas but vast, restless waters. They didn't rage like a hurricane, but they pulsed, like breath, as if the sea itself was alive and waiting. I hovered over coastlines: New York, Miami, Tokyo. Then, islands scattered like grains across the Pacific. People stood by the shore, watching. Nothing moved. No wind. No waves. And then the water began to retreat. Not with the violent pull of a tsunami. No. It was slow, eerie, almost reverent, like the ocean was bowing to something ancient. Children pointed. Fishermen dropped their nets. Scientists stared without understanding. The sea floor revealed itself, bare, cracked, forgotten. But it wasn't empty. It was revealing. From beneath the water rose shapes, ruins, pillars, coral-covered walls, carvings not made by modern hands. Glowing faintly, humming as if awakened. "What is this?" I whispered. Jesus stood beside me now. "These are truths the world buried." And I understood. These weren't just archaeological wonders. They were testimonies. Stories the earth itself had kept safe. Of civilizations lost, of warnings ignored, of divine fingerprints humanity had tried to erase. And then came the light, from beneath the sea. A golden illumination poured upward from the cracks, shimmering like liquid fire. It didn't destroy. It revealed. People on shore wept. Some dropped to their knees. Others ran, not from fear, but from awe. Some sang. Some stood in silence, their faces lifted to the heavens. And then Jesus said something I'll never forget. "The oceans will uncover what man has chosen to forget. Not to condemn, but to remind." The vision faded, but the sound remained, a deep low hum, like the heartbeat of the earth itself. Back in the presence of Jesus, I could barely speak. My hands trembled. My heart ached, not from fear, but from something deeper. Conviction. We had forgotten who we are. We had forgotten whose we are. But the waters had not. And now they would speak. There was one more vision. Jesus turned to me, not with urgency, but with peace. He whispered, "After the shaking, comes the light." Everything faded into stillness. And then a spark. Just one. Floating in the dark. Golden. Soft. Alive. It grew. Not in explosion, but in quiet expansion, like hope blooming inside a soul that had nearly given up. I saw the earth again, but different. Not as it was. Not as it had been. But as it could be. The skies glowed, not with fire, but with warmth. Rivers shimmered. Trees swayed like they were singing. Mountains radiated calm. Cities softened. Noise gave way to stillness. Hatred gave way to understanding. And the people, they emerged from shadows. Children ran through fields laughing. Elders raised their hands in praise. Families embraced. Enemies forgave. Strangers became friends. Weapons were laid down. Churches opened their doors wide, and stayed open. Not for tradition, but for love. There was no perfection, but there was presence. There was no utopia, but there was renewal. And in the middle of it all, flowing like breath through the world, was the golden light, touching everything. And everyone who let it in was changed. I turned to Jesus, unable to speak. He simply nodded. "This is not the end," he said. "It's the beginning for those who choose it." I wept, not because I was afraid, but because I believed. And as the vision faded, his voice returned one last time. "Time is short, but hope is not. Speak, Clara. Let them know." I opened my eyes in the hospital bed, lungs gasping, tears streaming. My daughter held my hand whispering, "Mom, you're back." Yes, but not as I was. I had crossed over, and returned. Now I write these words not for attention, but for you. If your heart has been stirred by this journey, know this. Jesus is real. The signs are coming. And the light, his light is on its way. Don't wait for the sky to split to believe. Comment, "I receive the light," to open your heart to him. Subscribe to walk this journey with us. Because when the golden light comes, and it will, may we be standing in it ready,